The transport ship docked with a heavy clank against the Galactic Academy station. Taesung pressed his face against the window, staring at the massive structure floating in space. It looked like a small city made of metal and glass spinning slowly among the stars. His heart pounded with excitement and fear. "We made it, Baram," he whispered to the German shepherd sitting beside him. The dog's ears perked up at his name and his tail wagged once against the floor. Taesung had dreamed of this moment for 2 years. Earth had finally joined the Galactic Council, and now human students could attend the famous academy, where aliens from hundreds of worlds learned together. He was one of the first, one of the lucky ones. But looking at the alien ships docked around the station, each one stranger than the last, he felt very small. The approval for Baram had taken months. The academy officials didn't understand why a human would need an animal companion. They had questioned everything. Was it for food? For protection? The concept of emotional support confused them. Finally, they agreed, listing Baram as both a support animal and a security companion. Taesung suspected they only approved it because they were curious. The airlock opened with a hiss. Taesung grabbed his bag with one hand and Baram's leash with the other, though the dog didn't need it. Baram had been trained since he was a puppy. He never wandered. He never disobeyed. Right now, he walked calmly beside Taesung as they entered the station. The main hall was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high that Taesung couldn't see where it ended. Hundreds of students moved through the space, and not one of them looked human. There were beings with scales, with fur, with skin that glowed. Some floated instead of walked. Some had too many limbs. Some had too few. Taesung tried not to stare. He had studied the major species before coming here, but seeing them in person was different. A creature that looked like it was made of purple liquid oozed past him. Something with 6 legs and crystal-covered skin clicked by without looking his way. "Excuse me," a voice said behind him. "You are blocking the path." Taesung spun around and looked up. Way up. The alien towered over him, at least 7 feet tall. Its skin looked like pale blue crystal, reflecting the station lights. Its eyes were solid black without any white. This was a Krylox, Taesung remembered. One of the more advanced species in the galaxy. "Sorry," Taesung said, stepping aside quickly. Baram moved with him, staying close. The Krylox's eyes shifted down to the dog. Its expression changed to something that might have been amusement. "What is that creature?" "This is Baram, he's a dog. From Earth." "A dog." The alien pronounced the word carefully, like it was tasting something strange. "I have read about Earth animals, small, weak, short lifespans. Why did you bring it here?" Heat rose in Taesung's cheeks, but he kept his voice calm. "He's my companion. He stays with me." The Krylox made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was sharp and cold. "Humans bring their pets to an academy of learning. How primitive." It walked away, its crystalline body catching the light with each step. Taesung let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Baram looked up at him with dark, intelligent eyes. The dog sensed his mood. He always did. "It's okay, boy," Taesung said quietly. "Let's find our room." The dormitory section was in the western ring of the station. Taesung's room was small but comfortable, with a bed, a desk, and a window showing the stars. He unpacked his things while Baram explored every corner, sniffing carefully. When the dog was satisfied that everything was safe, he lay down near the bed with a soft huff. Taesung sat on the floor beside him, running his fingers through the dog's thick fur. "This is going to be harder than I thought," he admitted. Baram's tail thumped once against the floor. The next morning, Taesung had to attend the welcome assembly. The Great Hall was filled with students from across the galaxy. He spotted 2 other humans in the crowd and felt a wave of relief. He wasn't completely alone. The headmaster was a being of pure energy contained in a transparent suit. Its voice echoed through everyone's translation device. "Welcome to Galactic Academy. Here you will learn from the greatest minds in known space. Here you will forge bonds that cross stars. Here you will prove your worth." After the speech, students broke into groups. Taesung tried to reach the other humans, but the crowd separated them. Instead, he found himself standing alone near a wall. Baram sat beside him, watching everything with alert eyes. "Is that the human with the pet?" a voice said. Taesung turned to see 3 aliens approaching. The one in front was the tall Krylox from yesterday. Behind him stood a reptilian creature with 4 arms and a being that looked like it was made of living metal. "This is Kiva," one of the other students said, pointing to the Krylocks. "And that's Throne." The four-armed reptilian nodded. "We were discussing Earth's admission to the Council. It seems very rushed." Kiva stepped closer, looking down at Baram. "And this is the famous Earth animal. It looks so fragile. What does it do?" "Baram is a dog. He's loyal and intelligent," Taesung said. "Loyal." Kiva repeated the word like it was funny. "On my world, we have creatures that can tear through steel with their claws. On Throne's world, there are beasts that breathe fire. And Earth sends us this, a fur-covered waste of resources?" Other students were gathering now, curious about the conversation. Taesung felt dozens of alien eyes on him. "Dogs are more than they appear," Taesung said carefully. "I am sure they are," Kiva said, his voice dripping with mock politeness. "Tell me, human, does your pet perform tricks? Can it roll over? Play dead?" Some of the watching aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Baram remained perfectly still, but Taesung noticed the dog's ears had moved back slightly. A subtle sign. Baram was listening to every word, reading every movement. Before Taesung could respond, another human pushed through the crowd. She was small with determined eyes. "Leave him alone," she said firmly. Kiva turned his attention to her. "And who are you, Ji-won? Another primitive human, I suppose?" She stood beside Taesung, her arms crossed. "Is this how the Great Galactic Academy treats new students? With mockery?" Kiva's expression didn't change. "We simply find it amusing that humans think animals like this belong in a place of higher learning. On civilized worlds, beasts are kept in their proper place." "Baram isn't a beast," Taesung said quietly. "He's family." The word seemed to confuse the aliens. They looked at each other, some making gestures Taesung didn't understand. "Family," Thron repeated, his voice like gravel scraping metal. "You claim kinship with a different species? How strange humans are." Kiva leaned down, bringing his crystalline face close to Taesung's. "Let me give you advice, human. In the galaxy, the weak are forgotten. Your animals are weak. Your world is weak. If you wish to be taken seriously, you should leave the pet behind." He straightened up and walked away. His group followed, and slowly the crowd dispersed. Ji-won touched Taesung's shoulder. "Don't listen to them. They're just trying to intimidate us." "I know," Taesung said, but his hands were shaking slightly. He knelt down and hugged Baram. The dog leaned into him, solid and warm and real. That night, Taesung couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day's events. Baram slept on the floor beside him, but even in sleep the dog seemed alert, ready. Taesung thought about home, about Earth, about all the people who were counting on him to represent humanity well. He thought about the mockery in Kiva's voice, the dismissal in the other aliens' eyes. They didn't understand. None of them understood what dogs really were, what they meant to humans. But maybe, Taesung thought, they would learn. The first week at the academy passed slowly for Taesung. Every day brought new challenges, new stares, new whispers. He attended classes on galactic history, xenobiology, and universal mathematics. The material was difficult but manageable. The social environment was worse. Kiva's mockery had started something. Other students now felt free to comment on Baram whenever they saw him. Some were merely curious, asking questions about Earth animals, but many were dismissive or openly hostile. They saw the dog as proof that humans didn't belong among advanced civilizations. In xenobiology class, the instructor was a floating jellyfish-like creature named Professor Ven. The professor meant well, but the lesson on Earth fauna was humiliating. Earth is classified as a death world, Professor Ven explained, its tentacles waving as it spoke. The environment is remarkably hostile. Yet paradoxically, the dominant species and most fauna are fragile compared to life. From more civilized worlds, a holographic display showed images of Earth animals, lions, bears, sharks, elephants. These are the apex predators of Earth, the professor continued. Note their simple designs. Teeth, claws, muscle, no energy projection. No natural armor plating, no venoms of significant lethality. In a hypothetical combat scenario, most would fall quickly to predators from worlds like Skaltor or Krylocks. Taesung sat in silence, his jaw clenched. Ji-won sitting beside him looked ready to explode. The display changed to show domestic animals. Dogs appeared on the screen, and these are creatures humans keep as companions. The canine species, descended from pack hunters called wolves, domesticated approximately 15,000 years ago. They serve various functions: companionship, labor, security. Their loyalty to humans is well documented, though the evolutionary advantage of this trait remains unclear. Kiva raised one crystalline hand. Professor, forgive my interruption, but why would an advanced species need such primitive security? Surely humans have technology for protection. Professor Ven's tentacles curled thoughtfully. An excellent question. The human attachment to animal companions appears to be cultural rather than practical. It is one of their more peculiar traits. Jiwan's hand shot up. That's not fair. Dogs aren't just about practicality. They're part of our families. They've been with us for thousands of years through everything. Indeed, Professor Ven said gently. I meant no disrespect. Cultural practices vary greatly across species. What seems impractical to one civilization may hold deep meaning for another, but the damage was done. After class, Taesung heard the whispers, saw the looks. The other students now had official confirmation from an instructor. Earth animals were weak. That afternoon, Taesung found his locker had been vandalized. Someone had stuck a holographic sticker on it showing a cartoon dog running away from alien predators. The caption read, "Earth's finest." He peeled it off without comment, but his hands trembled with anger. Barum, standing beside him, whined softly. I'm okay, boy, Taesung lied. The harassment escalated. In the cafeteria, students would make barking sounds when Taesung walked past. Someone created a social feed account posting funny comparisons between Earth animals and alien predators. Every post showed the Earth animals losing badly. Thrawn seemed to enjoy the mockery most. The four-armed reptilian would deliberately walk close to Barum, stomping his feet hard enough to make the floor vibrate. He was testing the dog, trying to provoke a reaction. Barum never gave him one. The dog remained calm, walking steadily beside Taesung, but his eyes tracked every threat. Every potential danger. Taesung noticed his companion staying closer than before, the leash hanging loose because Barum refused to stray even an inch. Ji-Wan was less restrained. She confronted Kiva directly one day in the common area. Why are you doing this? She demanded, stepping into his path. What did we do to you? Kiva looked down at her with his black, expressionless eyes. You did nothing. That is precisely the point. Humans have done nothing of significance. Your world was granted council membership as a courtesy, not through achievement. You bring primitive animals to an institution of learning. You embarrass yourselves and waste our time? We're here to learn just like everyone else, Ji-Wan said. Then learn this, Kiva said coldly. The galaxy does not respect weakness. Your Earth is weak. Your animals are weak, and sentiment is the weakest trait of all. The sooner you understand this, the better. He walked away, leaving Ji-Wan shaking with frustration. That evening, the three human students met in Taesung's room. The third student was a quiet young man named Hyun, who had been keeping his head down, trying to avoid attention. It's getting worse, Ji-Wan said, pacing back and forth. They're not going to stop. They think they can push us around because we're new. Maybe we should report it, Hyun suggested. The academy must have rules about harassment. Taesung shook his head. And say what? That other students are making fun of my dog? That they're posting mean things on social feeds? It'll make us look even weaker, so we just take it, Ji-Wan asked. We prove them wrong, Taesung said. We excel in our classes. We show them that humans belong here. And if that doesn't work? Ji-Wan crossed her arms. Taesung didn't have an answer. Barum, lying near his feet, lifted his head and looked at each of them in turn. The dog seemed to sense the tension in the room. The next day brought a new challenge. Thrawn approached Taesung in the training gymnasium, where students practiced various physical skills. The reptilian had several of his friends with him. Human, Thrawn called out. I have a proposal. Taesung turned wary. What kind of proposal? You claim your animals are not weak. Prove it. The academy has combat simulation arenas. Bring your dog. Let it face a creature from my world. If it survives 5 minutes, I will apologize for all mockery. I will ensure others leave you alone. Students were gathering now, sensing drama. Taesung felt trapped. If he refused, he looked like a coward. If he agreed, he risked Barum getting hurt in some simulation. Barum isn't a fighter, Taesung said carefully. He's trained for security and companionship, not combat sport. Exactly my point, Thrawn said, spreading all four arms wide. Earth animals are not fighters. They are toys, pets, nothing more. Kiva appeared from somewhere in the crowd. Come now, human. Show us what Earth's loyalty looks like. Unless you fear the truth? Taesung felt his face burning. Every instinct told him to walk away, but another part of him, a deeper part, wanted to show these arrogant aliens exactly what a dog could do. Before he could respond, Ji-won stepped forward. You want to see an Earth animal fight? Fine, but not in some simulation where you control the variables. A real test. Fair conditions. Thrawn's eyes gleamed. What do you propose? The obstacle course in the training dome, Ji-won said. It's designed to test agility, intelligence, and determination. Your creature versus Baram. First one to complete the course wins. Thrawn considered this. The obstacle course was brutal, designed to challenge students from all types of gravity and environmental conditions. Acceptable. 3 days from now, I will bring a young sculptor hunting beast. We will see which species is superior. The crowd murmured with excitement. Bets were probably already being placed. After everyone dispersed, Taesung turned to Ji-won. Why did you do that? Because I'm tired of this, she said. And because I've seen Baram, he's smart and fast. He can do this. Taesung looked down at his dog. Baram looked back, tail wagging slightly, trusting completely. I hope you're right, Taesung said quietly. The next 3 days were strange. Word of the challenge spread through the entire academy. Everywhere Taesung went, students watched him and Baram with new interest. Some seemed excited for entertainment. Others looked at him with pity, clearly expecting the dog to fail. Taesung spent hours researching sculptor hunting beasts. They were formidable, fast, agile, with natural weapons and thick scales. They were bred specifically for tracking and bringing down prey on a high-gravity world. But as he watched Baram during their practice sessions, Taesung felt a growing confidence. The dog moved with fluid grace, navigating obstacles with ease. More importantly, Baram was smart. He learned patterns instantly, remembered solutions, adapted to challenges. Still, doubt crept in during the quiet moments. What if Ji-won was wrong? What if this just gave Kiva and the others more ammunition for mockery? What if Baram got hurt? On the night before the challenge, Taesung couldn't sleep again. He lay in the dark, listening to Baram's steady breathing. The dog slept peacefully, unaware of the expectations placed on him. Taesung thought about Earth, about all the dogs throughout human history who had served, protected, and loved their humans. Dogs who had gone to war. Dogs who had rescued people from disasters. Dogs who had simply been there, loyal and true through everything. You don't have to prove anything, boy, Taesung whispered. I know what you are. But tomorrow the galaxy would get its first real lesson about Earth's animals. And Taesung had a feeling that many assumptions were about to be challenged. The recreation dome was the largest structure on the Academy station. It housed dozens of different environments under one massive transparent ceiling. Students could walk from a desert zone into a frozen tundra within minutes. It was designed for research, relaxation, and field studies. Today, Professor Ven was leading a xenoecology class through the forested zone. The environment mimicked a temperate woodland from a dozen different worlds, with trees and plants that should never grow together arranged in a beautiful chaos. Taesung walked near the back of the group with Baram beside him. The challenge was scheduled for tomorrow, and he was trying to keep his mind occupied with classwork. Ji-won walked on his other side, taking notes on her datapad as the professor explained the complex ecosystem. Notice how the Viridian moss interacts with the Chthon ferns. Professor Ven's voice came through their translation devices. Though from different worlds, they have developed a symbiotic relationship here in the dome. Life finds ways to cooperate, even across the stars. The irony wasn't lost on Taesung. Life might cooperate, but apparently intelligent species struggled with the concept. Kiva and Thrawn were near the front of the group, thankfully far away. They had been quieter today, probably saving their energy for the spectacle tomorrow. Taesung noticed them glancing back occasionally, whispering to each other. The class spread out as they moved deeper into the forest. Professor Ven encouraged exploration, reminding students to stay within the marked boundaries. The forest was thick here, with tall trees creating shadows even though artificial sunlight streamed through the dome above. Taesung found a fallen log and sat down, grateful for a moment of peace. Baram immediately began sniffing around, exploring the unfamiliar plants with cautious curiosity. The dog was always gentle with new things, investigating but never destroying. You nervous about tomorrow? Ji-won asked, sitting beside him. Terrified, Taesung admitted. What if this makes everything worse? It won't, Ji-won said firmly. Barum is going to show them. I know it. Before Taesung could respond, he noticed something. The forest had gone too quiet. He couldn't hear the professor's voice anymore. Couldn't hear the other students. He looked around and realized they had drifted farther from the group than he intended. We should head back, he said, standing up. That's when Kiva and Throne emerged from between the trees. 3 other aliens were with them, students Taesung recognized but didn't know by name. They formed a loose circle blocking the path back. How convenient, Kiva said, his crystalline face reflecting the dappled sunlight. The humans have wandered off alone. Taesung's heart began to race. Barum immediately moved closer, positioning himself between Taesung and the approaching aliens. The dog's posture had changed subtly. His head was lower, his muscles tense. What do you want? Ji-won asked, trying to sound braver than she looked. Just conversation, Throne said, his forearms crossed in pairs. We have been thinking about tomorrow's challenge. It seems unfair. Unfair how? Taesung asked carefully. Unfair to the dog, Kiva said, moving closer. It will be humiliated, defeated, perhaps injured. All because you humans are too proud to admit weakness. Barum will be fine, Taesung said. Will he? Kiva was very close now, towering over them. You risk your pet's dignity to satisfy your ego. That is not love. That is cruelty. We know what we're doing, Ji-won said, but her voice wavered. Thrawn laughed, a harsh grating sound. Do you, I wonder? Humans are so new to the galaxy, so ignorant of how things work. He uncrossed his arms, flexing his 4 hands. Perhaps you need a lesson. Stay back, Taesung warned, but his voice came out weaker than he wanted. Or what? Kiva leaned down, bringing his face level with Taesung's. Will your pet protect you? Will it bark? Barum growled. It was low and deep, coming from somewhere primal. The sound made even the aliens pause. Oh, it makes noise, Throne mocked. How frightening. Then everything happened very fast. Throne reached out with 2 of his arms and shoved Taesung hard. The push was powerful enough to send him stumbling backward. He tripped over a root and fell, hitting the ground with a painful thud. Taesung! Ji-won started toward him, but Kiva moved to block her path. His crystalline body glowed slightly, a subtle threat. Stay there, human, Kiva said quietly. Throne walked toward Taesung, who was struggling to get up. You see? This is what happens to the weak. The galaxy takes what it wants, and right now I want you to understand your place. The reptilian grabbed Taesung by his shirt with 2 hands, lifting him up with ease. Taesung's feet left the ground. He could see the other aliens pulling out their devices, recording everything. This was planned. This was entertainment for them. Please, Taesung managed to say. Don't do this. Undo what? Throne's face was inches from his. Teach you a lesson? But education is why we are here, Barum barked. Once, sharp and loud. A warning. Thrawn glanced at the dog with amusement. The pet objects. How adorable. Kiva was still blocking Ji-won, but he turned his attention to Barum. Someone should teach that animal proper manners. It should learn to be quiet when its betters are speaking. He raised one crystalline hand toward Taesung, not quite touching but threatening. It was a gesture of dominance, of power, a clear message that he could hurt Taesung any time he wanted. That gesture was a mistake. Barum's growl changed. It became something else, something that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to the ancient parts of the brain that remembered when everything in the dark wanted to eat you. It was the sound of a predator that had decided to act. The aliens suddenly noticed the dog was no longer standing in the same place. Barum had moved silently and swiftly and was now coiled like a spring, every muscle visible beneath his fur. His lips were pulled back, revealing white teeth. His ears were flat against his head. His eyes were locked on Kiva with absolute focus. This was no longer a pet. This was not a companion animal. This was something that had been sleeping and now it was awake. Kiva, one of the other aliens said nervously. Maybe we should— Shut up, Kiva snapped, but there was a slight waver in his voice. It is just an animal. Thrawn still held Taesung off the ground, but his attention was now on Barum. Your dog is protective, cute, but what will it do? It cannot hurt me. My scales are— Barum launched himself forward. Not running, attacking, the speed was shocking. One moment he was 5 feet away. The next he was airborne, 65 pounds of muscle and fury moving with perfect precision. Thrawn dropped Taesung in surprise. The reptilian tried to raise his arms to protect himself, but he was too slow. Bahram hit him low, jaws opening wide and then closing with devastating force on Throne's lower right arm. The crunch was audible. Throne screamed, a sound that was part pain and part disbelief. He tried to shake the dog off, but Bahram's jaw pressure was immense. Those teeth had evolved to hold struggling prey, to crush bone. Throne's vaunted scales provided some protection, but not enough. Not nearly enough. Blood appeared, dark and viscous. Throne stumbled backward, still screaming, and Bahram finally released him. But the dog didn't retreat. He landed on his feet, snarling, already looking for the next threat. Kiva stood frozen, his earlier confidence evaporating. The other aliens backed away rapidly. "Get it off! Get it away!" Throne was cradling his injured arm, his voice high with panic. Bahram turned toward Kiva. The crystalline alien took a step back, then another. His body language had completely changed. He was no longer towering over others. He was trying to make himself smaller. "Good dog," Kiva said, his voice shaking. "Good. Calm." Bahram took one step forward. Kiva raised his hands defensively. Then Bahram charged. Kiva turned to run, but the dog was faster. Bahram slammed into the back of Kiva's legs with the full force of his body. The impact sent the 7-foot alien crashing forward. He hit the ground hard, and there was a cracking sound as his crystalline structure fractured. Kiva rolled over, holding up his arms to protect his face. "No, stop! Someone help!" The other aliens were running now, crashing through the forest, calling for help. Ji-1 stood paralyzed, her hand over her mouth. Taesung finally found his voice. It came from somewhere deep, somewhere primal, the same place that humans had always called to their dogs from. "Bahram, heal!" The effect was immediate. Bahram stopped moving. He stood over Kiva, blood on his muzzle, breathing hard. But he stopped. For 3 seconds, maybe 5, the dog stared down at the alien who had threatened his human, making sure the threat understood. Then Bahram turned and walked back to Taesung, sitting down beside him. The dog's tail didn't wag. His ears were still back. He was still ready, still watching, still protecting. Taesung knelt down and wrapped his arms around Bahram. The dog was trembling slightly, adrenaline coursing through him. But he leaned into Taesung's embrace, accepting comfort even while remaining alert. "It's okay," Taesung whispered. "Good boy. Good boy." Ji-1 finally moved, running to them. "Are you hurt? Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Taesung said, though his voice shook. "We need to." The words died in his throat. Professor Ven was floating toward them through the trees, moving fast. Behind the professor came Academy security, heavily armed and ready for danger. The other students must have reached them. Kiva was still on the ground, groaning. Throne sat nearby, holding his mangled arm, his scales stained with his own blood. The medical bay was the most advanced facility Taesung had ever seen. Machines that could repair almost any injury hummed and beeped around Throne's bed. The reptilian alien lay still while medical scanners examined his wounded arm. Dr. Rel, an insectoid creature with 6 delicate limbs, clicked as it worked. "The damage is extensive. The bite force was remarkable. Several scales cracked, muscle tissue torn, one bone fractured." Throne's voice was weak. "How is that possible?" "My scales can withstand plasma cutters at low setting. Different kind of pressure," Dr. Rel explained. "Sustained crushing force. Approximately 300 pounds per square inch, based on the wound pattern. The jaw was designed by evolution for this exact purpose." In the next room, Kiva was being treated for his injuries. His crystalline structure had multiple fractures where Bahram had knocked him down. The impact had been severe enough to cause internal damage. Nothing life-threatening, but painful and requiring extensive repair. The alien doctor treating him was reviewing scans with confusion. The force distribution suggests the animal understood exactly where to strike. The joints where your crystalline plates meet. The weakest points in your structure. "It was just an animal," Kiva said, but his voice lacked conviction. "It attacked randomly." "Perhaps," the doctor said. "But the damage pattern suggests otherwise." News of the incident spread through the academy faster than light. By evening, every student knew the story. Most had seen the recordings. The footage was being analyzed, shared, discussed. In the recordings, you could see everything clearly. Throne pushing Taesung, Kiva blocking Ji-1. The threat, the moment when Bahram decided his human was in danger, and then the attack. Students who had never paid attention to Earth were suddenly searching for information. What were dogs? Where did they come from? How could something so apparently friendly become so violent so fast? Taesung sat in a waiting area outside the security office. He had given his statement 3 times. Ji-won sat beside him, and Hyun had joined them for support. Baram was being held in a secure area, separated from Taesung for the first time since they arrived at the academy. How long will they keep him? Taesung asked for the 10th time. Until the investigation is complete, Ji-won said, but it's clear you were defending yourself. The recordings prove it. The door opened and the security chief emerged. The geometric being's shapes rearranged slightly as it spoke. We have completed our preliminary review. The attack on you was unprovoked and premeditated. Your companion's response falls within acceptable defense parameters. So Baram is cleared? Taesung asked hopefully. The situation is more complex, the chief said. While the response was justified, the level of damage caused has created concerns. Multiple council members are questioning whether Earth animals are safe to have on the station. That's not fair. Ji-won stood up. They attacked first. I understand your frustration, the chief said calmly. However, this is the first time an Earth animal has injured Galactic Academy students. The council must consider all factors. There will be a formal hearing tomorrow. That night, Taesung couldn't eat, couldn't focus. He kept thinking about Baram alone somewhere in a secure facility, confused and probably scared. Dogs were pack animals. They needed their humans. Hyun brought him food from the cafeteria. You need to eat something. Tomorrow is important. I can't stop thinking about what happened, Taesung said. The way Baram moved. I've never seen him like that. He was protecting you, Ji-won said. That's what dogs do, right? Yes, but Taesung struggled to find words. It was so fast, so precise. One moment he was calm, the next he was something else. The recordings are everywhere, Hyun said quietly. People are scared. They're calling Baram a monster, saying Earth sent a dangerous predator disguised as a pet. Taesung put his head in his hands. He's not a monster. He's the gentlest dog I've ever known. He's never hurt anyone before, not once in 5 years. Maybe you need to tell people that, Ji-won suggested. At the hearing. Explain what dogs really are. The next morning, the hearing room was packed. It seemed like half the academy wanted to attend. The council sat at a raised platform. 7 beings representing the major species in this sector. The head counselor was an ancient creature that looked like living stone. Taesung was called first. He walked to the center of the room, feeling thousands of eyes on him. Baram was brought in by security, muzzled and on a reinforced leash. The dog saw Taesung and pulled toward him, whining. Please remain calm, the security officer said, though it was unclear if he was talking to Taesung or the dog. The stone counselor spoke, its voice like grinding rocks. We are here to determine if the animal known as Baram poses a continued threat to academy safety. Young human, please explain what occurred yesterday. Taesung told the story. His voice shook at first but grew steadier. He explained how they had been isolated, threatened, attacked. How Baram had only acted when Taesung was in clear danger. The dog showed remarkable restraint, Taesung finished. He stopped immediately when I commanded. He could have done much worse but chose not to. A counselor that looked like animated water spoke next. The injured students claimed they were merely talking to you, that the attack was unprovoked. The recordings prove otherwise, Ji-won called out from the audience. Several security officers moved toward her, but the stone counselor raised a hand. The human female is correct. We have reviewed all footage. The initial aggression came from students Kiva and Throne. However, this does not address the primary concern. The level of damage inflicted by an animal many assume to be harmless. Professor Venn floated forward, tentacles waving in an agitated pattern. If I may address the council? I believe this incident reveals a significant gap in our understanding of Earth fauna. Proceed, the stone counselor said. After yesterday's events, I researched Earth predators extensively. Specifically, I studied the species Canis lupus familiaris, the domestic dog. Professor Venn activated a holographic display. What I discovered is remarkable and concerning. The display showed wolves hunting in a pack. Then it showed dogs throughout human history. Guard dogs, war dogs, rescue dogs, police dogs. Dogs are not simply companions, Professor Venn explained. They are descended from one of Earth's apex predators, wolves. These creatures hunt in coordinated packs, bringing down prey much larger than themselves. Approximately 15,000 years ago, Humans began domesticating wolves. They selectively bred them for various traits: loyalty, intelligence, trainability. The display changed to show bite force comparisons. A wolf's bite force averages 400 pounds per square inch. Some domestic dog breeds retain this trait. The breed known as German Shepherd, which Barham belongs to, typically has a bite force of 230 to 300 pounds per square inch. This is sufficient to break bone. Murmurs rippled through the audience. The counselors leaned forward with interest. But here is what makes dogs truly unique in the galaxy, Professor Venn continued. Humans took predators, apex predators, and made them family. They live with these creatures, trust them with their children, sleep beside them, and in return, dogs exhibit loyalty that crosses the line from instinct into something more complex. They will defend their humans against any threat, regardless of size or danger to themselves. A reptilian counselor spoke up. Are you suggesting that humans have weaponized predators and disguised them as pets? No, Professor Venn said firmly. I am suggesting that humans have formed a bond with predators that no other species in the galaxy has achieved. Dogs are not weapons. They are partners. But they retain their ancestral instincts. When a dog's human is threatened, those instincts activate. The stone counselor turned to Taesung. Is this true? Your animal is a descendant of predators? Yes, Taesung said. But Barham has been trained since he was a puppy. He knows how to control himself. He's certified in security work. He's been around thousands of people and never hurt anyone. Not until yesterday when I was being attacked. And if you are attacked again? The water counselor asked. Will the animal respond the same way? Taesung looked at Barham. The dog stared back, eyes full of trust and confusion behind the muzzle. Yes, Taesung said honestly. If someone tries to hurt me, Barham will defend me. That's what he's been bred to do for 15,000 years. That's what makes him a dog. The council conferred among themselves, their voices too quiet to hear. The audience waited in tense silence. Finally, the stone counselor spoke. We have reached a preliminary decision. The animal Barham acted in defense of its human. However, the level of force used was extreme. We cannot allow such danger on this station without proper controls. Taesung's heart sank. Therefore, the counselor continued, we require the following conditions. First, the animal must undergo behavioral evaluation by our xenopsychology department. Second, humans must provide comprehensive education about Earth animals to all Academy students and staff. Third, clear protocols must be established regarding interaction with Earth fauna. Does that mean Barham can stay? Taesung asked, hardly daring to hope. The animal may remain provided these conditions are met. We recognize that the initial assault was not the animal's fault. However, all students must understand what Earth animals truly are. They are not toys. They are not harmless. 3 weeks passed after the hearing. The Academy felt different now. Quieter around the human students. More careful. Taesung walked through the corridors with Barham and students moved aside. Not in mockery this time, but with genuine caution. Some nodded respectfully. Others watched with obvious curiosity. A few still seemed afraid, giving them a wide berth. The mandatory education program had begun. Every student and staff member was required to attend lectures about Earth fauna. Professor Venn led most sessions, and they were always packed. Taesung attended one of the lectures, sitting in the back with Jiwon and Hyun. Barham lay quietly at his feet, drawing occasional nervous glances from nearby students. Professor Venn's holographic displays showed Earth's diverse animal life. Not just predators, but the incredible variety of species that humans had domesticated and lived alongside for thousands of years. Horses, the professor explained, showing images of the powerful animals, used for transportation and labor for over 5,000 years. Capable of killing a human with a single kick, yet humans trusted them completely. Cats, small predators that humans welcomed into their homes to control pests. Cattle, sheep, goats, all integrated into human society. A student raised a tentacle. Why would humans surround themselves with so many potentially dangerous creatures? Because humans understand something fundamental, Professor Venn said. They understand that trust creates bonds stronger than fear. Every animal you see here could harm a human. Yet humans chose partnership over domination. They fed these creatures, sheltered them, bred them selectively. In return, these animals became extensions of human capability. The display changed to show dogs specifically. Different breeds, different purposes. Tiny Chihuahuas and massive Great Danes. slim greyhounds and stocky bulldogs. The diversity of dog breeds is staggering, Professor Venn continued. All descended from wolves, yet shaped by human needs into hundreds of varieties. Some for hunting, some for herding, some for protection, some simply for companionship. But all sharing one trait: loyalty to humans. The professor played footage from the incident. Students who had seen it before still watched with rapt attention. You could see the exact moment Barum transformed from pet to protector. Notice the dog's response pattern, Professor Venn narrated. It does not attack immediately when the human is pushed. It warns first. Only when the threat escalates does it act. And when commanded to stop, it stops immediately. This is not mindless aggression. This is controlled, purposeful defense. After the lecture, several students approached Tai Sung, a crystalline being, similar in appearance to Kiva but smaller, spoke first. May I ask about your companion? Tai Sung stood and Baram rose with him. Of course. Is it true that dogs can sense human emotions? Yes, Tai Sung said. Baram knows when I'm sad, stressed, or happy. He responds to my mood. Fascinating, the student said, keeping a respectful distance. On my world, we have no concept of interspecies emotional bonds. It seems impossible. It's not always easy, Tai Sung admitted. It takes work, training, patience, but the bond you build is worth it. More students gathered, asking questions. What did dogs eat? How long did they live? Could other species form similar bonds with them? Tai Sung answered patiently, grateful that curiosity was replacing fear. One afternoon, Tai Sung was summoned to the council chambers. He arrived with anxiety tight in his chest, wondering if there was a new problem. Instead, he found the stone counselor waiting with an unexpected guest. Kiva stood beside the counselor. The crystalline alien's fractures had healed, but there were still visible lines where his structure had been repaired. He looked different somehow. Smaller, maybe, or just less arrogant. Thank you for coming, the stone counselor said. Student Kiva has requested this meeting. He wishes to speak with you. Tai Sung waited, uncertain. Baram sat beside him, calm but watchful. Kiva stepped forward, then stopped a respectful distance away. I owe you an apology. A real one, not one forced by the council. His voice was different, too. Quieter. I treated you with contempt from the moment you arrived. I mocked your world, your species, your companion. I believed I was superior. Why? Tai Sung asked. Because I was afraid, Kiva admitted. Earth was admitted to the council so quickly. My world took centuries to earn that right. I thought humans must have cheated somehow, that you didn't deserve to be here. So I decided to prove it by humiliating you. You almost succeeded, Tai Sung said quietly. No. Kiva shook his head. I failed completely. Because when your companion defended you, I learned something. I felt something I had never experienced before. He paused as if the next words were difficult. I felt genuine fear for my life. In that moment, when the dog stood over me, I understood. I was not superior. I was not special. I was prey. The admission hung in the air. Tai Sung didn't know what to say. I have studied Earth since then, Kiva continued. I learned about your wars, your struggles, your death world that tries to kill you in 1,000 different ways. And I learned that humans survived not by becoming the strongest, but by making alliances with each other, with animals, even with the planet itself. That is your real strength. I accept your apology, Tai Sung said finally. But you hurt Throne too. Have you apologized to him? Throne and I are no longer friends, Kiva said. He blames me for what happened. Perhaps he is right. I led him into that situation. He suffered because of my arrogance. The stone counselor spoke again. Student Kiva has proposed a project. We believe you should hear it. Kiva straightened slightly. I want to create a cross-species understanding program. Not just lectures, but real interaction. Students from different worlds working together, learning about each other's home planets and cultures. I thought, perhaps you and I could lead the first group. Tai Sung blinked in surprise. You want to work together? I want to learn, Kiva said. And I want others to learn what I should have understood from the beginning. That being different does not mean being lesser. Tai Sung looked at Ji-won, who had accompanied him. She nodded encouragingly. Okay, Tai Sung said. We can try. The next week, the first cross-species understanding group met. 20 students from 10 different worlds gathered in a common room. Tai Sung and Kiva stood at the front together, an unlikely partnership. We are here to learn from each other, Kiva began. Not to judge. Not to compete. To understand, Taesung added. Every species has strengths. Every world has taught its people different lessons. We are all valuable. The meetings became popular. More groups formed. Students who had never spoken to each other started having conversations. Ji-won started a sister program focused specifically on Earth biology, teaching interested aliens about the incredible diversity of life on humanity's homeworld. Hyun began documenting everything, creating a database of cross-species interactions and learning experiences. This could be useful for other academy stations, he explained. We are figuring out how to make this work. Others will need this information. One evening, Taesung took Baram to the observation deck. The massive windows showed the stars stretching into infinity. Other students were there too, but they no longer avoided him. A few even came over to say hello. A small furry alien approached cautiously. May I pet your dog? Taesung smiled. This was the question he had been waiting weeks to hear. Yes, but move slowly. Let him sniff your hand first. The alien extended a tiny paw. Baram sniffed carefully, then his tail began to wag. The alien gently touched the dog's head, running fingers through his fur. So soft, the alien said with wonder, and warm. I can feel his heartbeat. That is trust, Taesung said. Baram is allowing you to touch him. That is a gift. More students came over one by one. Each asked permission. Each approached carefully. Each showed respect. And Baram, patient and gentle as always, accepted their attention. His tail wagged constantly. This was what he was meant to be, a bridge between humans and the world around them. Professor Ven found Taesung later and floated beside him. You have achieved something remarkable. Do you realize that? I just brought my dog to school, Taesung said. No, the professor's tentacles waved in a pattern that might have been a smile. You taught the galaxy that strength and gentleness are not opposites, that the fiercest protector can also be the most loyal friend. Many species have predators, many species have tools and weapons, but only humans have turned predators into family. Other species could do it too, Taesung suggested. Perhaps, Professor Ven agreed, but humans did it first. 15,000 years ago, when your people were still primitive by galactic standards, they looked at wolves and saw possibility. That is vision. That is courage. The semester continued. Taesung's classes became easier as he grew more confident. The mockery that had defined his first weeks was gone, replaced by genuine interest and respect. Students asked him questions about Earth constantly. What were cities like? What did humans eat? What other animals did they live with? He gave a presentation on horses, and students were amazed that humans would willingly sit on the back of such large, powerful animals. He showed videos of cats, and students laughed at the small predator's behavior. He talked about the bond between farmers and their livestock, and students struggled to understand the concept of caring for creatures you might eventually eat.